ROI, or return on investment. That's what we're talking about today on the huddle. Welcome to it. And happy Wednesday. Happy 416. You see what I did there? Happy 416. And welcome to the voiceover huddle on the voiceover blueprint YouTube channel. My name is Mike Hathcote. I'm a full-time voice actor and voiceover career coach, I guess. Just wrote a book recently called The Voiceover Blueprint, which you can actually get for less than $10 with the link below, along with a couple of free gifts, 4 actually free gifts. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can get this content as quickly as possible. Oh, and chime in on the chat for the shout outs. We're going to do some shout outs here in just a few minutes. But first, let's talk about today's topic. And that is return on investment, ROI. So anything that you buy for your business is an investment. Whether it be something tangible like, equipment, booth, all that kind of stuff. That all is an investment. And the intangibles like training and demos and that kind of stuff, that's also an investment. So the old saying that you have to spend money to make money is true, but be careful because not all opportunities out there are a good investment. Now, since yesterday was tax day, I will say that all of these things that you can buy for your business to grow your business, uh, all that stuff is tax deductible. So keep that in mind. When you're doing your taxes, all that can be deducted from your those expenses can be deducted from your income, and that means your tax burden will be a little less, hopefully. So that right there is a big one. So don't forget that. But when it comes to buying anything else for your business, the intangibles or the tangibles, make sure that you do get that return on investment, that the money you spend will hopefully be far outweighed by the money you'll make from that expense. Um, give you a story just for example purposes. The very first demo that I did, pro demo that I did, way back in the day. I think it cost me about $2,500, which is about the going rate for most pro demo production situations. Cost me about $2,500. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a lot of people. And so, you know, did it hurt when I first plunked that money down to get that demo? Maybe a little bit. Because at the beginning, I wasn't making the money I am now, and that was a lot of money. And so I got the demo done, and very quickly, a single job that I got based on that demo more than paid for the demo. That's return on investment. So I not only got it paid for, but I made money on top of that. And that was just the one job, not to mention all the additional jobs that I got also based on that demo performance. So that's just one example of you pay some money up front, and then hopefully it's going to continue to generate money year after year for you. That goes for demos and equipment and everything, right? So just keep that in mind. Here's another story. In fact, this is something I spoke about yesterday with one of the new Blueprint members who everybody who joins the Blueprint, you get a 30-minute kind of onboarding call with me so I can kind of show you the ropes and get you off on the best foot. But one of the things we were talking about was, and I'm not saying you should do this, I'm saying some people have done this. Some people will actually go down to the bank and get a business loan to do their voiceover business. Because you're gonna need things like training and demos and equipment and booth and all that kind of stuff. And I know people who have gone down to the bank and gotten a little small business loan to start their business. Like I said, I'm not saying you should do that. Everybody's situation is different, but return on investment, spend a little bit now to make a lot more later. That's the ultimate goal. So just be, what's the word? Just be careful when you are going out there and trying to start your business. Make sure that you make good choices for, good equipment, good training, good demos, that kind of thing, and it will far outweigh the initial investment as long as you do the right things and you put the right steps in place to actually go out and start doing your marketing and stuff and start making money and making this a career. Okay. So return on investment, keep that in mind. Is this purchase going to make you money later? Okay. All right. Let's see who's in today. There's John in Denver. First in today. Ding, ding, ding. There's Kathleen from Manassas, Virginia. And Ron from Grand Haven, Michigan. And there's Edward from Jacksonville. And Kurt, I don't know how this happens, but it seems like Edward and Kirk always come in right around the same time. It seems like I'm always saying, Edward in Jacksonville and Kirk in Greenville. I don't know if it's just, I don't know what's going on there. There's Nancy in Yankton, South Dakota. And Maria in Rhode Island. And there's Theo. Happy hump day from downtown Chicago. And there's Bob from Wadsworth, Ohio. David Brumfield. Hello to all from Hamilton, Ontario. And there's Nephi from Knox, Vegas. And Rick from St. Paul. There's Andrew from Latvia. Good morning to you. And Nicole from Ottawa. LaDonna from St. Louis, Missouri. And there's DeCarlos. Happy Wednesday from Las Vegas. The real Vegas, not Knox Vegas. That's Knoxville. To those of us who lived there. There's Alex from Utah. So much better being here live. Well, thank you, Alex. Appreciate you being here. And John from Atlanta, the ATL, where you have ITP and OTP. I'll just leave it at that. I won't even explain it. But if you're in Atlanta or have ever lived in Atlanta, you're either ITP or OTP. You know what that means if you live there. There's Tracy. Good morning from Rochester, Minnesota. Oh, good point. She says, getting in the black. The red is hard to get out of. You got that right. People have done it. I mean, sometimes, if you go get a loan or whatever, or you finance something, that's okay as long as it's a quality product or service that will eventually get you out of that red and into the black. But there's also something to be said by, bootstrapping it and just doing a little bit at a time, if you don't have the money to invest all up front. People have done it that way too. There's Sarah from Kentucky. And Alan, hey, from Windy, PA. Do established VO talent like yourself invest in insurance for your voice? Is that a thing? I've heard of that from time to time. I personally don't. I'm sure it might be something worth doing, but I personally have not done that. And I don't know anyone who has. I'm sure it has happened, but no. Although it does suck, I'll tell you that when you do get sick or something happens to your voice, which happened to me a few months ago when I had COVID, I was I I was on the sidelines. It knocked me out for a good 2 weeks. And so maybe that's where insurance would have come in handy. Who knows? There's Denise from Long Island. Becky says, great topic. Taxes helped me see where my ROI wasn't in 2024. And hey, from the mitten. Well, hello to you. Yeah, and maybe you're getting a tax refund. Use that tax refund to build your business, unless you've got more debt you need to pay off or something. But, if you've gotten a refund coming in, invest a little bit of that in your business, whether it's a demo or, upgrade your booth or something like that, training, whatever. Hopefully you didn't have to pay taxes. Jay says, I rent my second card on Turo to help support my investment in VO. Beautiful. That's creative. That's thinking outside the box right there. You got a second car that's just sitting there, rent it out. Use that revenue to put into your business. That's beautiful. There's Stephen in Atlanta. Are you ITP or OTP, Stephen? John says, outside the perimeter, thankfully. Yeah, me too. That's what that means, by the way. OTP is outside the perimeter, and the perimeter is this big, highway that it's the bypass that runs around Atlanta. And if you're inside that perimeter, it's kind of nutty. If you're outside the perimeter, it's a little bit more, less hectic. Let's put it that way. Less traffic and stuff. Edward says, just know the schedule and are waiting to queue up the new video 5 minutes before showtime. I'm not sure what that's referring to, but awesome. There's Tim from Altoona. And Sean from Longview. There's Terry from Falston, Maryland. Be smart with your money. Absolutely right. There's Jason from Kearney, Nebraska. And there's Alexis from West DFW. Jay says they're changing the OTP on my side of town. How do they do that? How do they change where the perimeter is unless they're shutting down part of the highway and moving it to somewhere else? That's interesting. I used to hate going into Atlanta from up north, which is where I lived. And gosh, it was just such a nightmare getting in and out of that town. Going in there for a concert or an event or just anything in there is just, oh, the worst. The worst. There's Corey from Whitehall, Wisconsin. Oh, Edward says, referring to being amongst the first to post in the chat. Gotcha. I see what you're saying there. A performing artist says, I just found out that I am ITP inside Interstate 285 in Atlanta. That's all right. I got it set up so it's quiet enough to do business. Yeah, that's true. I guess if you're close to a lot of that traffic that's happening in Atlanta, that could be an issue with your space, which once again is more proof that your space is so paramount. Your recording space is so paramount in your success. Make sure that your space is very well treated and built, and there's no such thing as a soundproof booth. There's just not, unless you work at NASA. So just get it as best you can treated well. DeCarlo says, yep, I grew up ITP. Nutty indeed, and don't miss it. Amen to that, brother. All right. Well, interestingly enough today, I have got some work for a couple of different videos for the Middle East. So it's got a lot of very interesting pronunciations that I'm going to have to do a little research in. Which, by the way, it's very simple. Of course, if the client sends you the pronunciations, that's great. A lot of mine do, but every now and then they don't. And so you either have to ask them for the pronunciation of some of this stuff, or you just got to go and do your research. Hop onto YouTube, hop onto Google Pronounce. Just type in the word and then pronounce after it, and a little box will pop up. Hopefully, not on every word, but most words that'll have the phonetic spelling as well as a play button where you can hear someone say it. So keep that in mind when you're trying to find out what these crazy pronunciations are. So I got a few of those today. I don't know why the stars aligned and I got a bunch in from over yonder. Carmen says, good afternoon from Gainesville, Florida. I did my taxes early, got my refund, and used some of that to pay for Dr. Parker's course. That is fantastic, Carmen. Thank you for that, by the way. And hopefully you've already watched it and have had your head significantly blown off by all of the amazing content in that class. Boy, does that really hit home. All the stuff she talks about is just, it's an eye opener for sure. Andrew says, yeah, one need to be in a vacuum to be soundproof. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there are rooms that I've heard. There's a room, I think it is at NASA, where when you go into that room, you can't stand it for very long. You can literally hear your blood pumping, right? So you're unable to stay in this room for like more than like a minute or something, or else you just go nuts because it's so quiet. You can hear your heart pumping your blood throughout your body, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, no such thing. Just try to get it as best you can, and always remember to reach out to a voiceover um, engineer, sound engineer, to make sure that you've got all of your settings dialed in so that it sounds as best as possible. And by the way, speaking of that course that Carmen mentioned, there is a link below to that course where we're running a half price deal. Just use the coupon code, what was it, Mindset 50, and that'll get you half price on that class. Dr. Baina Parker. Okay, guys, I'm going to get busy trying to figure out these crazy words. So I will see you all tomorrow. And until then, break a lip. See you later.